How's it going, everyone? Welcome to Module 5. In this module, we're going to really focus on two things. One is continuing with the theme of the lean startup, and in this week, talking about MVPs, minimum viable products. And the other part of this module is going to be aimed at different funding sources for your ventures. And so as we think about these different types of funding sources, we'll talk about incubators and accelerators. We'll also talk about venture capitalists and angel investors as these potential types of funding. And then we'll also dive into the Dropbox case. And Dropbox actually is a product of one of these accelerators, Y Combinator, which we'll talk about a little bit. But as we have our live conference on Thursday, which I'm really looking forward to, we will talk about what were some of the questions that they received as they were going through the process of getting accepted to the accelerator. So you look at the readings for this week, there's about almost 6 hours of readings required, but some really good content along or with these two themes. So we're going to continue with the art of the start, why the lean startup changes everything with Steve Blank, who's kind of one of the godfathers of the lean startup approach. And then we'll also dive into what startup accelerators really do. And I actually want to pull up do another share here. So when we think about the ways to get funding, and I mentioned Y Combinator earlier, there are a couple different approaches. So incubators is one approach, angel investors, accelerators, there's venture capital. But I want to focus on accelerators here for just a second. And all of these have kind of different traits to them. But from an accelerator standpoint, you're really looking at an abbreviated experience, typically where you are at a specific location with your team. It's a cohort, so there are other startups that are there, and it kind of create this entrepreneurial environment that's somewhat competitive, but more collaborative than anything. In an accelerator, you tend to receive some form of seed capital. And so that can range anywhere from 10,000 to most of them are around 100,000 or so. And not only will you receive the capital, but you also receive mentorship and a lot of coaching that comes with it. And in turn for this, these accelerators tend to take a small percentage of equity. And so it ranges between 5 and 10% typically. But when you think of a lot of companies, and Dropbox is one, Airbnb is another, a lot of them have come from these types of accelerators. So I'm doing one more share here. So the other side of this is this idea of the minimum viable product. And so again, all the lean startup approach is trying to do is trying to speed things up, trying to do it in the most economic way possible. And ultimately, we just want to get to the truth. And so as we talked about before with the business model canvas, where people had these, 40-page business plans that were all in their head. It was all about what they thought. And then how the business model canvas kind of turned this more towards the actual customers and clients and the feedback that they could provide. The same thing is provided here as it relates to product. And so instead of me investing or you investing a lot of time and resources trying to create the perfect product to unveil it to people who would either half-heartedly receive it or not receive it at all, this is a very quick process aimed at getting to really just the core value propositions that you think that your product has, and then getting feedback from customers. So when you look at this chart here, if we create a product that's minimum, it tends to be just not very good and nobody wants to use it. If we create a product that's very viable, it's a product that people want to use, but it tends to take a long time to build those. And typically competitors are the ones that have the resources to actually build these types of products. So kind of what sits in the middle of this is this minimum viable product. And so it should have the core features. It should be good enough. One of the things that you'll see in some readings is this idea that if you launch your product and you're not somewhat embarrassed about it, you've launched too late. So, the product is not going to be very pretty. It's going to be the basics. It's going to be the essentials. But that'll give you a place to build from. And it'll take a lot less time than it typically does when we build out a whole bunch of features. The other thing that I want to highlight on this image here is this idea of this kind of waste piece. So one of the mistakes that people make when they build product is that they put all the features in at once. And what this ends up doing is it becomes confusing to you as the entrepreneur because you're not really sure what parts of the product people actually like and what parts people don't. And so when you come with just one or two core features from the beginning, you get that moment of truth very quickly and you can build from there, and it tends to be much more effective. And so lastly, just to provide one more visual of this, what this process looks like is, we have ideas, we kind of begin building them out, we create this product, we put it in people's hands, we're able to measure through quantifiable metrics how useful it is, what people think of it. We learn from that, and it generates more ideas. And so as we go through this very iterative process rapidly, it allows us to cover a lot more ground in a much more deliberate and focused and intentional way than we typically would. So that's kind of the core of it. And again, your readings will dive into this much more. A couple things here before I end the video. Really want you to enjoy the readings this week. As I mentioned, lots of very great content. And then for this Thursday, I'll send out a link for the live conference. I thought we had a good time last week. Looking forward to this one as well. So I'll send that link out. And then what I'll also do is I'll get responses to your innovation decks, hopefully by Tuesday at the latest, but hopefully by tomorrow, Monday, so that you can continue to iterate on them as you build out your businesses. So hope everyone has a great week. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll look forward to seeing everyone on Thursday at the live conference.